Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Current podcast. I am editor and publisher of the Pittsburgh Current, Charlie Deitch. Joining me today, we've got a great show. Joining me today is Dean Bogg. Dean is from the YouTube show Neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, a show that he has created. Also, who's going to be joining us today is our visuals editor, Jake Mislivchik. Jake has been following what Dean's been doing, so Jake's also going to join us. The show today is brought to you by Jazz HR. Jazz HR is headquartered in the heart of Pittsburgh and helps you find and hire more qualified candidates faster than ever. Couple of announcements. First, we do have the new issue. It's been a while, we know that, of the Pittsburgh Current with Liberty Magic on the cover. Derek Hughes, a stand-up magician, I guess he refers to himself. That's our cover story, plus our new expanded listings. Check us out also at pittsburghcurrent.com. Dean, welcome to the show. We've been following sort of what you've been doing. Jake actually brought your work to my attention. Talk to me a little bit about where the idea of the show came from. Have you always just sort of been like an urban explorer kind of person, or?
People always ask, people are always curious about where the idea came from. There's not much of an idea to it. Mm-hmm. It's more of a way for me to kind of throw all of my tools into one package. The show itself is not very high concept. It's just the neighborhoods, you know. It's kind of just a platform for me to practice making these little documentaries and kind of experiment with that form. Yeah,
it's right. You're right. It's more the work that goes into it than the actual idea. I mean, because
there's no idea.
Anyone can walk around with a cell phone and cell phone camera and take pictures of. But you sort of elevated that. I think that process and giving folks like a real look at something rather than just here's a picture. You're giving a look and you're talking to folks in the neighborhoods. And I think that's definitely the execution of what you're doing is I think pretty high quality, more than than anyone else has done who's ever attempted anything like this in the past.
I also think one of the key things is you focus on the issues somewhat. Like each neighborhood faces an issue, and you're not afraid to address that. You ask the people what the issue is, and then they respond to what's the one by underneath the Parkway? What neighborhood is that?
The Run.
Yeah, the Run. And you went to the protest outside, and it was really well done.
Yeah, the Run is kind of how it all started. I had planned, the Run was just intrigued me from the first time I was down there. It's a very strange neighborhood. You drive past it on the Parkway, and you're like, what is that down there? You can see the Byzantine Church.
Yeah, I never knew that existed.
So I kind of had the idea to make a documentary about the Run, and that's kind of where it started, because I realized that it's not just the Run that has its own little unique personality. It's all the neighborhoods have something going on, and a lot of the issues are similar. We're gentrifying, like taxes are going up, housing prices are going up, but it's also different in every neighborhood. You said I wasn't afraid to address that, but I don't know. I don't think that's. I think the scariest part about doing these episodes is just approaching strangers.
Yeah, that's true. And the stolen bike test, which we'll get into in a
bit.
So before we get really into talking about the videos, tell me a little bit about your background in terms of filmmaking. Obviously that's at the core of this, something you.
So I don't have much of a background.
Yeah.
I didn't go to school for it. I was really disappointed by the Pitt film classes that I took. I did do a semester at a little film school in London, which was excellent.
Wow.
The Derek Jarman Lab. It was through Pitt, and it was fantastic. So I did spend a semester studying it.
Yeah.
But I've only been doing it for about 2.5 years, and I was running a video production company with a friend of mine right out of college.
Yeah.
But it didn't really feel exactly like what I wanted to be doing. Right. So I've only been doing it for 2.5 years, but that being said, I've been doing it a lot.
Right.
And also I think filmmaking is something where you have to be self-motivated.
Right.
you could go work on a big film set and pull cables for 10 years
Right.
and set up light stands for 10 years and then maybe get to do something like mildly creative. Maybe.
Right.
And I don't want to take that risk. I just want to do it.
Right.
And I don't want to. And I think YouTube is a great platform from that because it allows you to do that. And if you can make and nobody can pay attention, and that's fine. You're still doing it and you're still learning it, and then people start noticing.
Yeah. Is it something you've been doing it a couple of years, but is it something that you always had an interest in, or was that sort of like what
very
you
much
were
so.
you wanted to do? Maybe you weren't exactly sure how you were going to get to that, but that was sort of where you wanted to be, was in filmmaking in some form or fashion.
I think I always had a gut feeling that it's what I wanted to do. There was this kid in my high school who made the most kick-ass videos.
Really?
These little short films. Anytime there was a class project, he would whip something up, and I would see that, and I just thought they were the coolest things, and I was jealous, and I wanted to know how he made them, and I knew in my gut that's what I wanted to do. So then I worked this corporate internship in New York City, and it was sexy, and everyone looked like they were out of a magazine,
Right.
and the clients were big, and everyone was great there, but I was just miserable, just commuting and sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. So that was my impetus to pick up a camera and be I need to
For
follow
perspective,
this gut
what kind of stuff
feeling.
were you doing there in the internship? Was it?
It was marketing. I was doing marketing for a branding agency.
Okay. So it wasn't anywhere near what you wanted to be doing or where you wanted
I didn't know what I wanted
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
doing, but I knew it wasn't that. I knew
Right.
I didn't want to sit at a desk.
Right. And so at that point, do you decide what was so walk me through sort of your first project that you decided, or maybe it was something small or whatever, when you decided to let's try making something.
Yeah, I had been filming things on my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was that eased the transition. The first thing I made with a camera, my friend Matt and I dressed up in 70s costumes, and we went to the bowling alley, and I brought some funky lights.
Yeah.
And we just made fools of ourselves.
Right.
And I cut this little funky music video type thing, and I posted it to my Instagram, and all my friends were like, "Oh my God, what is this? What are you doing?"
Right.
So, and then it kind of just went from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, you said, if I'm remembering from a couple things I've read, as you said earlier, the run was sort of the first thing you wanted to tackle.
The run was the first idea for but that wasn't the Neighborhoods show. The first time I was going to do the Neighborhoods thing was South Oakland. So I tried to do South Oakland, and then I bailed. I got scared. I chickened down. I was like, you know what? Not going to do this. Couldn't do this. I couldn't do these in a week. It'd be too much work.
Right.
And then a few months later, I decided to take another look at it, and I was like, oh, you know what? This could be something. There is something here.
Right.
So I started with Bloomfield, and then eventually came back to South Oakland.
What was it? Where did the doubts come from? Do you think was it you were looking at your footage? You weren't quite. I mean, what was it? Just that.
So for a while, well, I think anytime you're on the brink of something potentially successful, it's scary.
Right.
So I think maybe a part of me knew that I might have something here, and I ran away from it because it's to create something and to put yourself out there is not the easiest thing to do. So I think that was the case, is that I was afraid of this kind of monster of an idea.
Yeah. And so when you start a project, when you decide you're going into a neighborhood, do you storyboard it out at all, or
No.
do you just go in and see what's doing?
Yeah. I do like to draw, and I do like to draw storyboards, but for this it wouldn't make sense. I try to spend the first 2 days just interviewing people, talking to people, turning the camera away from myself, and documenting what the place looks like, creating those little visual montages, and asking people, what should I cover? What would you like to see in this episode as somebody who lives here, as somebody who's been living here? Who should I talk to? Can you put me in touch with anybody? So pretty much all the research or pre-production I do is while I'm shooting those first 2 days and gathering information.
How many days does it take to film one of these episodes? Like, are you there that whole week?
It depends. Like, I've procrastinated on some of them and like scrambled and done them in 2.5 days. But the ideal setup is like film Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, edit Friday, Saturday. That's never how it works. I'm always scrambling on Saturday to like run out, get the last few shots that I need, and then run back home and like finish the edit. Yeah.
So are you doing this like full time now? Because you launched a Patreon.
Yeah.
And that seems to be doing really well. I looked at the numbers. You're like almost halfway or over halfway to your goal every month. Yeah, and that's. I mean, the people of Pittsburgh love this. I mean, you're getting thousands of views. Like I'm looking now, like the run has 27,000 views on the video, and I mean you're up to like 15, 20 each video. So like the people really love it. And that's something that the Patreon was a really good idea because at first I was like, you need to like market this. This is really successful, and then as soon as you launch that, I'm a subscriber, and it's awesome. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about video is that it's a pretty lucrative field. Video is like very high in demand.
Right.
If I was trying to be a poet or a painter, it might be harder for me to sustain myself at first. But, you know, even before the Patreon, I was able to do this full time and then, you know, run out on the weekend and do a quick freelance shoot, like film a wedding on a Sunday or something and make enough money to sustain myself for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Because my rent is so low here,
right.
You know, groceries are, I live pretty frugally. I don't go to restaurants. So I was able to, but obviously the Patreon makes that so much easier. So I'm extremely grateful for the people that are on the Patreon.
What kind of like equipment do you have? Do you shoot these with? Is it just like you and one camera and that's
pretty
it?
much? Yeah. I have a pretty solid camera, but it's also the camera that like everyone that does video production has at this point. It's a GH5. I've got a couple lenses, a couple little toys like the drone and the 360 camera, but it all fits in a backpack, you know, and that's amazing because if you wanted to make a documentary or a feature film 20 years ago, you needed trucks and vans and all sorts of stuff. But now I can make a movie with a backpack, you know, with the stuff that I can fit into a backpack.
You're watching the Pittsburgh Current podcast. We're here with Dean Bogg talking about his film series, Neighborhoods of Pittsburgh. I do want to talk a little bit about our sponsor, Jazz HR. Are you struggling to hire? Headquartered in the heart of Pittsburgh, Jazz HR helps you find and hire more qualified candidates faster than ever. With plans starting as low as $39 a month and including best-in-class recruitment tools like interview self-scheduling and candidate texting, Jazz HR is the easiest and most affordable solution to finding your next great hire. Post your job for free today at jazzhr.com. That's www.jazzhr.com. So, Dean, did you have any influences when you were kind of coming up? Maybe filmmakers you watched or pieces that particularly struck you as?
Yeah. I mean, I'm obsessed with movies and short films and short documentaries. My latest obsession is Bong Joon-ho. He recently did Parasite. He's phenomenal. Damien Chazelle is also one of my favorite directors. And then in terms of like kind of new media folks,
right?
Max Joseph was a big influence. Casey Neistat was probably the biggest. Right. He's like the YouTube guy.
Right.
And he can be cringy at times, and I think anybody on YouTube can be cringy at times. I look at some of my older videos, I look at some of my videos now, and I think, oh, that's cringy. That's really embarrassing. But you got to get past that. And Casey in particular is just like, I don't know if you've seen any of his videos, Jake. I'm assuming you've watched.
Casey, Casey Neistat is crazy. I started, like, the favorite one is that the snowboarding with the drone, the giant human drone. Yeah, that was crazy. But we do have a question from Jonathan Hayes. He said, "Any luck on getting together with Rick Seaback yet for a video?"
No, a couple people have asked about that. I don't know what I would certainly love to have to collaborate with him. I don't know him. No, okay. I've never met him. I don't know what a collaboration would look like. I would love to have him. I would love to help him out with something. I would love to have him partake in a Neighborhoods episode or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I have a question. So you do the intros, you have yourself, like there's two of you.
Sure.
And I think that is people, like as a filmmaker myself, I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. And it's funny. It's how do you do that? And is it hard to film that with the two people talking to each other?
It's really not. It's kind of a cheap trick.
Yeah.
But it's just a technique called masking.
I know that's a lot of editing
It's a lot of editing, and yeah, I definitely focus on the details in those edits, especially like in the intros or when I'm delivering a line to the camera.
Yeah, they're funny.
Yeah. I try to dress them up as much as possible. And I'm quick on Premiere.
Yeah.
I use Adobe Premiere Pro.
Yeah, that's what I use, yeah.
And it's a brilliant software.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, those
are pretty easy though. It's like, do you want me to explain how it works a little bit?
Yeah, if you want, yeah.
Let's see. All right, I'm gonna use a prop.
All right.
Can I use this?
Please
picture?
do.
Okay, so can I tear it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So if you have a frame, right? If this is your shot, and you have the camera on a tripod, you take this shot, right? This is your frame now. So here's me down here, blah, blah, blah. Then I take another shot of the exact same frame. The camera's still rolling, but now I'm over here, right? So then I layer them on top of each other in Premiere, and you can cut out one side of the frame that will reveal the other shot underneath. So if in this shot, if in this top shot I'm over here, I can cut out this side. And since the camera's on a tripod, it's the exact same shot, so everything will match. And now you can see me over here on this shot underneath. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you could basically like crop out the sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're funny. Some of the things you say just in the beginning, like the interviews with local residents, and yeah. Is that just on the fly? You come up with that stuff?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I'm starting to run out of ideas. So
how hard is that for you to go up? And as a reporter, it's our job to go up. We talk to folks, but we don't have a camera necessarily rolling. So what is that experience like? Have you gotten folks who maybe push back a little bit, who don't want to do it, or most folks sort of?
People are surprisingly open.
Yeah.
And I think, I do it in a way that's not super intimidating. The camera isn't huge.
Right.
So it's not quite as intimidating as like a news camera. And I kind of just shoot from the hip a bit, and I tell them to talk to me, and we just have a conversation, and I'll peek down at the screen to make sure I've got them in frame and whatnot. But I think once we start talking, they forget about the camera more than I do.
Right.
And yeah, I'm always, every time I'm like nervous about filming or just, feeling down, whenever I interview someone, it's like this immediate connection, and it feels good to be understood and to listen to someone. And like all of the fear that I had, I realized was just bogus. And then once I've approached someone, I'm like, I'm going up to everybody I see.
Right.
Hey, do you want to do an interview? My name's Dean. Blah, blah, blah.
I think that part of the thing I think that people respond to about that is Pittsburgh has almost 90 neighborhoods, and some are obviously bigger, some we all know, and then some are smaller and tucked away, and they don't always get the attention either. From not just from folks living outside the neighborhood, but also sometimes with city services and things like that. They don't always, I think sometimes through some stories that I've done, I think they feel like they're on their own out there. So I think having someone like you come in and, say, hey, your neighborhood is important enough, or your neighborhood is interesting, I really, really, really want to kind of dive in. I think that may be part of this. I think what may be part of your success is that you're giving voice and to these neighborhoods that some people probably have no idea are even there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times I'll be like dreading doing a neighborhood. Like, why am I choosing this neighborhood? Right. What am I gonna find here? and every single time I'm blown away. Like I find someone who really surprises me. So I think every neighborhood has something to offer. I think every neighborhood has brilliant people and brilliant business owners.
Right.
And I think every neighborhood is worth exploring and visiting and spending time in. You don't have to just hang out in Shady Side and Lawrenceville.
Right. Squirrels Hill.
Southside.
Yeah. So Jake mentioned earlier, and one of the things I really wanted to ask you about was, so you have part of your video is you have the bike test. I don't know if you call it the stolen bike.
Yeah.
The bike. So you park your bike somewhere. Explain to folks what that is.
So I actually
I was
recently
just gonna say I think you just stopped.
I stopped doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the first 13 episodes, I would just leave my bike somewhere, and it wouldn't be the busiest street, but it also wouldn't be some dead end. I tried to pick a street that was kind of a normal street in the neighborhood, and I would just leave my bike and then go film for the day and see if it was still there when I came back. And I didn't like that because I was very much like soliciting crime and tempting someone to do something wrong who probably didn't want, nobody wants to be a bike thief.
Sure.
But if you're in a position where you need money for your family or whatever, or you're addicted to drugs, like you might do something like that. So I was like tempting those people, and that was dumb of me. So I replaced the stolen bike test with the trash bag time trial is what I'm calling it. So I see how long it takes me to fill one bag of trash. Just run around. I often do it in the green spaces because the green spaces just get trashed.
Yeah.
And I like that because it's kind of like a test, like how dirty is the neighborhood, but I'm picking up trash and adding something as opposed to tempting someone to do something bad.
And I think that's more of a fair test, as you said. It's kind of like entrapment when you see like with the police, anybody could be tempted. I mean, it could be just someone who is, tired of walking, and so they're like, hey, there's a bike. I mean, who knows? It could be any number of reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean the neighborhood's not safe.
Yeah, it's more of a test of my luck than it was.
Exactly. But this seems like, trash is trash. I mean, it's something you can see. It's something tangible that you can pick up, and, telling the cleanliness of a place through that test is I think, more fair. Did you get some criticism at all about the bike test, or did people bring that to your attention, or is it something
not really.
You sort of came to on your own?
Not really. I just thought it looked bad.
Yeah.
I just felt like in my gut it was like, this is wrong. And the trash is going to end up in a landfill regardless, but it's better than it's like clogging a sewer or an animal eating it. Our waste system is... Can I curse on this or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Our trash waste system is just so fucked. I recently started composting.
Did you?
And I know I've got the long hair. I probably sound like such a hippie.
Just started?
But
Just kidding.
Yeah. But it is like amazing. Every time I go, I also started dumpster diving recently. Mm-hmm. You can get like 100%. The dinner I made last night came out of the dumpster.
I know folks who've been doing that for years. Who just they sustain. I mean, they sustain their lives on the food that they found food or recovered food, and so
and I think like for me at least, like I definitely want to like supplement my groceries with, because like you get a bag of oranges, one orange gets squished during transportation, so it's wet and it gets moldy, so the whole bag gets thrown out, and then you open the dumpster and you see one squished orange and 9 beautiful oranges.
Yeah. So
you just take the 9, and it's like, what? Why is this really? This is how this works.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I mean that's a huge issue in this country. It's just the amount of food that if it's not pretty, nobody wants to eat it, and that's sort of a
restaurants too.
Yeah,
I worked at a restaurant. I couldn't believe how much food got thrown out every day. Just garbage bags, and garbage bags of perfectly fine food that people didn't want to eat, or it was soggy looking or something.
Yeah, and that's I'm sure like somebody sends back a steak that's overcooked to their liking.
Right.
It goes right.
It goes in
right
the trash.
It's perfectly good. Yeah, it's definitely a problem. So what are your what are some other neighborhoods that you have? Or you have them lined up for a certain amount of time at this point, or do you just?
Now the way it works is I suggest 3 to the people on Patreon,
right.
And they vote on what is next. So my fate is in the hands of the Patreon. I do get to choose the 3.
Right.
And but then from there it's up to the vote.
Yeah. Do you have a wish list of places? I mean, do you have like?
Kind of. Not like written down anywhere.
Sure.
But there are certainly like 15 neighborhoods that I think will be juicier than the other ones, maybe. Go ahead.
How long do you see yourself doing? Do you see yourself covering what? Charlie, you said there's 90 neighborhoods. Like
close as 80 something. I would get the number.
Yeah.
I would
yourself covering.
I would get the names or the number screwed up.
Every single one of those.
Well, the thing is, like, I've done 14 episodes, and 4 of the 10 have been outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I did Dormont. I did Mount Oliver. I did Sharpsburg, and and Wilkinsburg is also outside of Pittsburgh. So. I definitely won't do all 90 now, but because I think that would just get dull after a while. But I think maybe by the time I'm dead, I would do 90, maybe come back in 10 years and revisit the project now that like whatever I'm making looks completely different than the way that the things that I'm making now, or maybe it will look exactly the same. And I haven't made any new discoveries.
You're a young guy, so I imagine you're going to go on and do other things. But at some point, I bet you're in your 40s, and you're like, I didn't do all those neighborhoods. God damn it, I got to go back. And you'll be starting all over.
I'll be on my deathbed.
Yeah.
Somebody get me to Beachview.
You'll die in Fairywood because that was the last place you had to go.
Yeah.
Well, this also isn't your first series. I saw you did a series. What was it called? On
Port Authority
Stories. Yeah. So, do you see yourself doing another whole series after these neighborhoods?
I don't know. I like the idea of a series because it is repeatable, and I think that works in terms of like retaining an audience and giving some people something to kind of grasp onto. I have a desire to make a feature length documentary. Whether that be something more, I don't know if that's something that I would necessarily like put myself in, the kind of like gonzo journalism thing where like an Anthony Bourdain or Michael Moore type of thing. But yeah, I do like the series model, and I like YouTube as a platform. So
that's true. Yeah.
Is there a do you kind of have like a what do you want to do with this? I mean, you're learning now. You're learning filmmaking. You're expanding. What are the ultimate goals for you?
I don't really have any ultimate goals. I mean, I think the ultimate goal is exactly what I'm doing, which is making work that I enjoy making, and making work that people love. And so right now I'm not thinking about what's next. I just want to keep going until this starts to die, or I get totally sick of the idea and I find myself hating it week after week. But that's not at all the case. So I feel really grateful. If anything, like my ultimate goal is to just like be happy. And I'm not happy every day, but I'm happy most days, I would say. And I feel incredibly lucky to even have the success that I've had in Pittsburgh. So there is no ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to be able to just keep going.
Right.
And the Patreon is huge in allowing me to keep going and scale up and make this more collaborative and maybe get a studio space and then make a documentary and then make blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, we are talking to Dean Bogg on the Pittsburgh Current podcast, filmmaker Dean Bogg, we should say. If you're looking for a great show on Friday, January 24th, the outrageous high-energy rock outfit The Tubes bring their glam rock to Jurgles. They'll be performing the album The Completion Backwards Principle and more. That's January 24th at Jurgles. Tickets are available now at www.druskyent.com. That's www.druskyent.com. And
you should have said that with a Pittsburgh accent. The Tubes.
The Tubes is coming to town, yeah, everybody. I think when I said ultimate goal, I think what I meant was, is documentary filmmaking what you want to do? Do you envision yourself? Do you want to be a feature filmmaker?
I love feature films.
Yeah.
I love movies
Yeah.
more than anything, maybe. in terms of cinema, but I don't know if that's where my skill set is. Like, I mean, that's the path I'm going down is certainly more of a documentary path. Yeah, I would love to make a movie someday, but that's kind of not. I couldn't even fathom what that would be like at the moment.
What's the first film that you remember really loving? Like, that
that's
you
an
just
easy
thought,
one.
oh my God, movies aren't just like pictures on a screen. They're like, movies are something different and something you feel really kind of deep.
That Thing You Do.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's really an underrated movie.
Yeah, it's not like the best movie I've ever seen, but it's my favorite movie.
Right.
It's been my favorite movie since I was 2 years old.
Wow.
My mom came out in 96, or I was born in 95. So I think my mom got it on like VHS and just like put it on for me as a baby.
Yeah.
And she said I was just glued to it. And I watch it every time I have like a new girlfriend that I really care about.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm going to show you the movie.
Right.
So I watch it every once in a while, or if I meet a new friend, who I'm like, how have you not seen this?
It's a litmus test. You have a movie. That's a great. I didn't even realize that I have one, but I have one, and that's and you're right. You're like, if you don't like this, I don't know if we can continue on. Mine is the movie Big Night with Stanley Tucci and the guy who plays Monk. Anyway, but it's one of those movies that I'm like, it's just two Italian immigrant brothers in a kitchen cooking, trying to save their business, and if you can't get into like the passion of that and the power of that, it's
this
just
isn't gonna work.
Yeah, we can really hang out.
School of Rock was also big.
Yeah.
Richard Linklater and Mike White.
Yeah.
That's I think music movies.
Yeah.
I love music. I'm not a musician. I wish I was a musician.
Really?
But I do love Whiplash as well.
Whiplash is great.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall is not directly about a musician, but it is kind of about a musician.
That's what I was going to ask. So is it musicals or is it movies with or about music?
Movies
Me
about
too. Yeah.
music. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird. Just like what, Jake? What is your movie that you go back to, or your litmus test movie that you would like shut your mom out of your life if she didn't like?
To be honest, I wasn't really paying attention. I was looking at some questions and comments we have from
ladies and gentlemen. You've seen Jake's first and last appearance on the Pittsburgh Current podcast.
People are really liking this episode. We have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll go back to it. Somebody asked about a pothole count score for your videos. Since that's a Pittsburgh thing, I guess. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan Hayes.
That could be done with the drone. Just fly the drone around.
Oh yeah. You do have a drone going back to equipment. Yeah, I saw
see
the
how many
aerial
you can
shots.
spot.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
I like that.
We have Brian Slover, love the YouTube series, and we have a lot of support here. People loving your work, and some people are even shouting out some videos and putting their favorite video links on here. So.
All right,
on. Is that the feedback you've been getting from people? They really positive stuff.
For the most part, I've gotten some stuff. I do read most of the comments. And some people like really pour their heart out, and I appreciate that. And that's why I'm able to pump these things out every week, because like I am totally motivated by knowing that people are loving this and people are inspired by these. So when I'm feeling shitty and it's like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., I really need to go do it. That is definitely a source of motivation. And
that's interesting. It's like it's a give and take relationship, because you're giving them that product or that video that is making them feel good or better or different, and then their comments, their feedback is doing the same for you. So that's good.
It's very.
I even
symbiotic.
showed my dad these videos, and he's like, this is a much better version of WQED. It's like a more hipster version of QED.
Yeah, I get a lot of you're the hipster Fred Rogers, or you're the hipster Rick Seaback. I do love WQED. I will say that.
Not to hate on QED.
I am a sustainer, and I have them playing just on. That's just what's always on. Yeah. If I'm awake, I'll have them on.
What are your kind of favorite documentaries that you either QED stuff or just in general? Anything you emulate or?
Yeah, I really like anything by Davis Guggenheim. So if you've seen, if you're into music, I recommend the documentary "It Might Get Loud." It's pretty much about the electric guitar. It's Jimmy Page, The Edge, and Jack White. And it tells their backstory, and then they get together and kind of talk about the guitar. I just watched a documentary about, I'm blanking on the name, it's about a guy who he's been looking for a guru his whole life, and he meets a lot of people that he thinks are phony, so he decides to see if he can become a guru. He's an Indian gentleman, so he grows his beard out, and he imitates his grandmother's accent.
Wow.
And sure enough,
people follow.
People follow him.
That's amazing.
When I'm in his presence, I feel enlightened. You can just tell that he's genuine and authentic.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fascinating story. I'm sure you can find it if you just search Guru documentary. Yeah, and a million other things that I'm not thinking of. Undefeated is a brilliant documentary. It's about a high school football team. You don't need to be a sports lover. I actually found that because it's Daniel Radcliffe's favorite documentary, and I was like, if the Harry Potter,
right?
If Harry Potter's favorite documentary is about a high school football team in Tennessee,
right?
It's probably worth watching.
Yeah. So
I watched it, and it was phenomenal.
I think documentaries are the one thing that people will go outside of their comfort zone of what they like or don't like to watch, because I know a lot of people. Netflix currently has a documentary on former New England Patriot Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And a lot of people, they're talking about it and watching that. People who don't necessarily care a thing about football, but
Bethany just came in this morning talking about it.
But it's just you get behind the scenes and you get to just sort of learn something and also be entertained on some level. And I think that's what I think a great documentary is. It's something that can keep your interest in. You're learning something that you didn't know walking out. So.
Yeah. It's got to be a good mix of informative, but also just downright enjoyable to watch.
Absolutely.
Beautifully filmed, beautifully done, beautifully edited. Oh, another one. The original Catfish documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Was very inspirational because it's so well done and the editing is so flawless. And it's by these two guys, Henry and Rel. They run this production company called Super Mache. I'm totally obsessed with them. That's the ultimate goal, to work with those guys.
Yeah.
And they shot the thing on like point and shoots and like little tiny cameras.
Right.
And they just recorded relentlessly. And then of course the MTV show spawned out of it, but that's not. Right. I don't watch that show, and I don't think it's quality at all.
You should feel free to keep this idea. You should catfish the Catfish guys, but film a documentary from the side of the catfisher, whatever the terms may. I don't know.
So do I pose as like a Netflix producer?
Yeah, or what? Yeah, professionally catfish them. That's a great idea. Yeah, and and set up all these meetings and send me a photo of yourself, lifting weights or something like that. It just anything, just to see how far they're willing to go to do that.
I think that they'd catch on pretty quick.
If you want you could catfish Jake. I think that would work out pretty easily. We've been talking to Dean Bogg, filmmaker Dean Bogg, having a good time talking about his web series Neighborhoods of Pittsburgh. Tell folks where they can find it and where they can find your Patreon.
So you can find it on YouTube if you search Dean Bogg Neighborhoods. If you search Neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, I think just the Wikipedia and whatnot comes up. But they're on YouTube, and then if you want to support the show, you can search Dean Bogg on Patreon.
And where can people find you on socials?
I use Instagram a little bit.
Yeah.
Dean.Bogg. Aside from that, not really. I probably should be on Twitter. I like Twitter.
Yeah. Jake, as we wrap up, anything you'd like to end with Dean?
I don't think so. Yeah, I was just going to ask what the Patreon and everything was for viewers and beat me to it.
Jake, you're doing a fine job today. I will have you on anytime. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dean, thank you so much for joining us
thank you guys.
Today. That was great. And today's show was brought to you by Jazz HR. If you're struggling to hire, Jazz HR helps you find and hire the most qualified candidates faster than ever. www.jazzhr.com. That's www.jazzhr.com. Dean, thank you very much. Jake, thank you very much. And we'll see you next week on the Pittsburgh Current Podcast.
Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Extra, extra, reading the issue. Raw news, unapologetic, no tissue. Catch the wave, the flow first certain. Nothing pull you in like a Pittsburgh current. Free from influence, nothing less than. No flexing, aim for aggression. We cover news, politics, art forms, and entertainment that comes in all sources. Pittsburgh, a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.